Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. For today's video, I wanted to talk to you about the narcissists and their obsession with themselves. So let's jump in. So when you start talking about the narcissist, it's interesting because to some degree, as much as we always say that they're always concerned about them looking good and doing better and being greedy. But to some degree, I think that initially starts from an obsession of how they look to themselves. Because typically when you grow up in a narcissistic family, both the narcissist and the black sheep feel this way to some degree because you get judged so crucially and critically. And then your family a lot of times doesn't give you the tools or put the work in, the time in to be a parent like they should be. And because of that, there's a lot of harm that occurs. I mean, you don't normally have the things that you need for school like other people do. You may not be dressed as appropriately and all of the tools that you need. Maybe if you need help with some studies and things, you won't have the ability to do that because you won't have the parent there to help you like other children would. And I'm not saying all children have all these tools abundantly, but typically there's a higher percentage probably that do than don't, because you can have children and be a single parent and be below what the standard is for middle class. But that doesn't matter. A lot of times those can be the best parents, the ones that grow up in a single home and they put that work in, they put that extra time in, and they will sacrifice themselves in a lot of cases to make sure that their child has a good understanding of life and has grown up with good moral values. And so they will sacrifice a lot of their time where they could be sleeping instead. So just because you grow up with both parents doesn't mean that it's not going to be toxic to the point to where you're going to have a lot of things come your way that are going to be stumbling blocks that are going to keep you from getting where you need to get. It's kind of like when you're with a narcissist, what they do in your life as an adult, they always bring everything to stasis. And you can't live like that if you can't expand, if you can't feel freedom to do what you want to do naturally to some degree. And when a narcissist comes into your life, they cramp down, they cramp your style. And it's slowly, it's known for being insidious, but it's also a malignancy. It becomes a major problem because they isolate you and they attack you in so many different ways, in every foundational way of your life when they're with you and then when they're without you. With you in the cycle, they control you by knocking down all of your foundations. They will attack every foundation. And with each cycle, it gets worse because you're more tired and you have less hope and you have less faith in the ability that you can handle whatever that load is. Your body is taxed and your mind and your heart, your soul is just getting worn out because it's not meant to be. But I guess what I'm getting at is when you're a child and you grow up in these families, a lot of times you get the worst type of instruction. Because what does a narcissist do? They're always the opposite. So if you need good instruction, they're going to give you bad instruction. Some instruction that's going to help advance you as a young child in the family, you're not going to get that. And narcissists always run in extreme fear, paranoia, anxiety, jealousy, greed, and they're in competition with everybody that they know. And that's how it works. When you become anything to a narcissist, any type of relationship, whether it be a coworker, a friend, a relative, a love partner, a child, they're in competition with all of them, all of y'all. And they got to knock everybody down below wherever they are standing from. At least in their mind, they got to know they're beating all y'all. And to do that, they have to cut off all of your revenues, all of the places that are going to serve you. And they're going to try to get you in this box that they want you to fit in, and they want you to obey. They want you to do what you're told and do it when they say, and only until then. And when they ask you to move, you move. And it will be just enough to keep your life barely going. But if you're not strong enough in your mind and in your psyche, in your spirit, it will crush you, and eventually you won't be able to do anything. So a lot of times people, even I've talked to several people that have been in narcissistic relationships, and they have ended up in psych wards, and temporarily, but the narcissist will put themselves in psych wards. I mean, they're often known for like ODing partially, or having some sort of, making some sort of threat to themselves and making it a threat to you as well. And there's a lot of narcissists that end up, their families and relatives and their, love partners will have to admit them, get them admitted to get help, get some treatment for a time. So they will put you in a psych ward if you stay with them long enough and the narcissist is crazy enough, but they will also put themselves in one because they are constantly applying pressure and they don't like to let up. But when you do wake up to what you are dealing with, you can't you can't do anything about it while you're in their family because you're too young and you got to do all those things. And that's where you get conditioned. That's where you get taught to then come out here. And like I said, the baton, the generational curse, just like you're running a race, the baton gets transferred over from your mother, father, or caregiver. Could be anybody, your grandmother, your grandfather, it could be your brother, your sister, it could be anybody, whoever's the narcissist. They pass the baton from them to your love partner. And then, you usually have a couple of friends that are either heavily narcissistic or narcissist, because that's the level and the vibration that you grew up on and you were conditioned to that. So when you come out here, after you get of age, then what happens? You're running on a narc vibration. You're running on a narc vibration, and that's to say that you're walking in an inferiority complex that was ingrained in your head, thought patterns and mindsets that were pressed in you. A lot of people don't understand what narcissism is because it's hidden and it's running so rampant, it's everywhere. But even people in the medical field couldn't even tell you what narcissism is if you asked them to define it. They don't know. It's a secret. It's a secret because most of the world controllers and the system in this world that we are following under, that's leading us, unfortunately, is a destructive system built on narcissism. It's the spirit of narcissism, because the only people that get to the top are the ones that will cut anybody off and step on anybody and have no love to do it, not have a conscience and not care. So those are usually the types that will elevate. Some of them, the ones that do, because we deal with the lower level ones. They walk in a lot of folly, and because they don't have sometimes like the financial means and the counsel around them, they will destroy themselves and destroy a lot of people in their pathway. But what happens when you grow up without those tools, the tools you should have had, and you don't have them? A lot of times there's a lot of lack. So that's where a child who becomes a narcissist will get into thievery. Because if you're in a family of narcissists, then everybody's going to be hoarding what they can for themselves, just looking out for themselves. So from a standpoint of you as a child in that family, you will end up having to think the same way, because you're probably not going to have the tools that you need in childhood. You may get into a life of theft because you have this inferiority complex and these mindsets that have been placed in you, and they can make you feel like you're not good enough. You're not good enough, or you can't elevate like the rest of the people, because it's built on condemnation. The narcissist is full of condemnation. And I wanted to kind of go over this because I've seen this a lot and I've dealt with this. But how the Lord works and how he allows goodness to be operated in the world is not through condemnation. Condemnation is to maybe shame more, to shame a person. You know, they always say the narcissist is in this mode of shame. But in goodness and in love and in kindness, you convict. And conviction is what can bring a person to wanting to make change, because it's the love correction. It's the correction that would run off love. And what the narcissist or the black sheep gets in the narcissistic family, they don't get that. They don't get the love correction, which is conviction, what the Bible would call conviction. And what they get instead, they get condemnation. That's condemning. So that's to condemn somebody. That's to shame them for what they did, instead of getting them to understand the right way and why we do it the right way. What are the consequences for doing it right and doing it wrong? And that's what conviction is. It's also to be able to educate, especially when it's a young child. It's a good time to pour into them that love conviction, so it will help the child to stay intact in their soul, in their mind, will, and their emotions, and to keep it together and to make a good, right change in their life. And a lot of things that are practiced in a narcissistic household are built on fear and competition, shame, condemnation. And that's how, when they get older, they become this abuser, and they become the accuser of the brethren, which is whenever something, happens to them, they like to accuse other people of doing it. And that's falsifying a witness, or deflecting it and projecting it onto somebody else, because they don't want to be shamed and they don't want to be condemned, and they will fear that action being brought down on them. There's a lot of fear that comes in a narcissistic household, a fear of being a nobody. And because there is a lack of verbal intimacy or vulnerability, there's a lot of things that end up being closed off. There's a lot of your body is energy. It's energy on different levels in different areas of your body. And when those things get shut off, these energetic ways and places where energy is provided for you, and it allows you, when you grow up in a normal, genuine household, to naturally not fear and be able to walk more in faith and hope, and always look for the goodness in things. And when you don't have those things lingering over you, then you have the ability, everything is more relaxed and it can flow better. But when you are always being condemned and dealing with the stress from the narcissistic household and the projecting, instead of individuals in the household they're processing their own thoughts and emotions. In a narcissistic household, they project because they don't process their emotions. They project them onto somebody else. Their negative emotions get projected onto somebody else. And a lot of times they walk in negativity because they have mindsets that are created in early childhood and cause a person to slowly walk in those mindsets and then start to believe them. And then they don't have love for themselves, because they may feel stupid or ignorant. They may feel, and I'm using these terms because this is how it would come across to them, because I felt a lot of these things. There's a lot of fear, and in the anticipation of fear, they may hoard. I'm not saying hoarding to the level you'd see on TV, but they're going to be greedy. So when they see somebody that has things they don't have, it, to their mind's eye, it looks as if they didn't have to do anything to get it. It just came easy to them. You know, they just wake up and it's there. And in some cases, that's true. And in a lot of cases, in a lot of ways, the narcissist and the black sheep have huge hurdles to get over. It's harder. Because at the end of the day, I think that they both, because when you have a struggle like that, you have an anointing on your life. So the narcissist and the empath or the black sheep, they both have anointings that will call out to them, but the narcissist doesn't heed the call, and a lot of empaths don't either. The narcissist stays a narcissist, stays in those mindsets, and they do a lot of crazy bad things because they're not healed, and their body, where the energies would flow, it's like they're cut off. You know, everything with a narcissist is like this. That's how, when you're around a narcissist, this is how your shoulders feel. This is how everything in your body feels, okay? And you can't live like that. You're going to live where that's also what your energy is doing. It's squeezing. It's all going to be tension, rage type. That's where that stuff comes from. And if you have like an energetic field in your heart area and it's like this, I mean, it's not going to be operating correctly. Or in anywhere, they're all connected in your body as well. And when one of them's closed up, or a couple of them are closed up, or all of them, I mean, that's probably what determines an antisocial from a low-level narcissist, the difference. I mean, if they have all these energetic bodies in these different areas are shut down, then you're going to probably be more toxic, and you're not going to have any emotional control because you shut these energies off. So now you're forced to get the energy from somewhere else. So then you have to be a predator and prey on people to steal their energy to fulfill yourself. And when you do that, you're not establishing your own generator. And so how can you put any faith in yourself if you can't even produce your own energy? And to get your own energy, you have to steal it by using people. And it's almost like survival. So then they have to manipulate to get the kind of people, to get people around them, because they don't have enough good character to do it. And the fact of the matter is, you can't be really creative operating like that either. So everything becomes theft of other people. And it does become a fight or flight. But it becomes a fight or flight because you continue to believe the same mindset instead of trying to find the right and wrong in things. Sometimes that would be a good start, to find what is the right way and learn to process your emotions. But then the empath does the same thing. Probably 80% of the empathic people that are good individuals, they become toxic as well, because they believe a lot of those mindsets too, except they have the ability to somewhat emotionally regulate. And they have the ability to make sure that they're not being toxic out here, to some degree. But they do become toxic enablers because they don't have the courage to change a lot of areas of their life that they need to as well. And when you live like that, it becomes a domino effect to getting where you need to go in an upright position. So you have to then find ways to shorten the length of time it's going to take for you to get there, because you feel as if you don't have what it takes. because you've been conditioned through condemnation, and then you're afraid to face the repercussions for doing bad things. So then you deflect them, project them, and over time you just lose all your courage. That's why salvation is a huge piece to healing a lot of these areas, because the narcissist only goes from 0 to 199 on the vibrational chart that was created by the astrophysicist David Hawkins. And 0 to 199 is to say that they go from shame to pride, but they never get to a state of courage, which is they can take the mask off and just be who they are. And to do that would put an end to the lies. It would put an end to the cheating and the manipulation. And it would put a lot of things to death, or it would move somebody that is a narcissist in a position they have never been in before. It would be literally the highest level they ever been, because it would be at least a 201 or 200, which you're hitting a whole new plateau. That would be a big deal for a narcissist. But what they do is they steal it. They steal the fuel to get on that level, so they can then conquer you and make you the primary supply, because that's the vibration you're at least in. Down here under a 199 is where you have all kinds of corruption. This is where abuse is. Abuse and criminal activity. It's all on that level. It's almost like if you looked on the vibration chart, 0 to 199 on the vibrational chart is none of the 9 fruits of the spirit. And that's obvious, because that's where the narcissist it dwells. Well, that's the lowest level. And it's going to be none of the 9 fruits of the spirit, everybody being fake, to steal, to thieve, to use, and to manipulate, to batter and to bruise, and to become an abuser in every which way. And this is also where demons hang out. They would be on this level as well, because this is, below 0 is the abyss. You're real close already. And if you can't get to courage, then you can't come out of being a fake. So if you dwell under a 199, you have to wear a mask. Have to. Many masks. That's how it works. And when you get saved, you have to have courage, because you have to get to it. When you get saved, you have to have courage, because you have to go to the altar, which means you have to stand up and walk to the altar as a sinner. And this is one of the biggest bad for the narcissist, or somebody who grew up in a narcissistic family, is it takes a lot for somebody who grows up in one of those families to go up there. A lot more than others. You will be in a cold sweat, y'all. I don't know how many times I wanted to go up to the altar and get saved, but my pride, in my fear, I would block it with pride and not go up there. But that breaks many chains, because as soon as you stand up and go there, you're in the level of courage already, because you're telling everybody I'm a sinner and I need a savior. You're outing yourself. You're outing yourself for being a lie, or somewhat of a lie. And that's okay. But a lot of times the narcissist and the empath will grow up with a lot of shame-based condemnation. So to get them to deal with anything out here that they get accused of, well, they have to project it, because they don't want to deal with shame. But in the family, they were forced to, and they want to avoid it at all costs. I swear that narcissists are like gnats. Annoying little gnats that you just can't get away from, and they're everywhere. But what happens, it makes it very difficult, but that is what breaks. That's the beginning of breaking all chains in your brains, really. Salvation. It's a big deal, y'all. And from there, the Lord will show you many different things. How to live, how to grow common sense, and all kinds of things. But a lot of people, if they're going to get saved, they usually do it when they're a lot of times younger. Because once you get to a certain age, things get so much harder to change. And I think that a lot of things start in early childhood. But that's why sometimes bereavement and going through a collapse for a narcissist is probably the best thing that ever could have happened to them in some ways. And it's just one of those things. You just have to look at things. So a lot of times what the narcissist is really, how it really derives is, how it really starts is the narcissist really starts as how they're obsessing about how they are viewed by others. Then it turns into somewhat of a survival mode. But when you're on that level, you're on a level of the demonic, heavily injured, and at such a low level, your aura's got all kind of cracks in it, and your light is dimmed. And a lot of people that are living on that level, that vibration level, some of us have gotten pulled down to there, but we still somehow maintain, and we're able to advance from there. And a lot of times it's out of the grace of God. But a lot of people, they get stuck there, and then they get to where they let dark energy in, and it becomes the controller of them. It will puppeteer them, and through the puppeteering of the narcissist, it will have them running around all over the place, just trying to rest their head. And at the same time, they're wrecking everybody, and they're just caring about themselves. But that's because the dark energy now is in full control of them. It's like they had a crappy computer program that they started out with, and that crappy computer program came from their early childhood, from their parents, and that's the generational curse that you have to break. And then from there, it turns into, when the dark energy comes in, then it's like the crappy computer program, and now a virus, a computer virus has been injected into it. And it still looks like a computer, but it's got a lot of crappy uploads. So a narcissist would have to be delivered, if that's possible, and saved at the same time. That would be bare minimum. I mean, that would be maybe a possibility in their redemption. But a lot of them, if I don't know how many, if all or what, but I know a lot of them are reprobate to the point to where they have seared their mind and their heart, and they just can't change because they've gone so far and let go of so much of God's goodness. But when you don't feel love, and you don't feel like you have a problem, and you're a god or a god status, and the only time that a narcissist would ever have a chance is a complete and utter collapse of their life and their whole lifestyle, to where they lose everything, and there may be a chance there for them to get redemption through the Lord and deliverance, because they're all dealing with demons. And that's what I often wonder, because the way the narcissist, the etiology of the narcissist shows up, and the fact that there are no cases where anybody has gotten healed, in my opinion, and from many others' opinion, it's because they sacrifice their true self for the false self. And when you do that, I believe that's the area that gets saved, that has the power after you get saved through the Holy Ghost to control the mind, will, and the emotions and the flesh, and get it all into captivity, all of the evil of the flesh, and to keep demonic energy out as your protection. And that's where the 9 fruits of the Spirit come from, which the other 8 are tethered to love. If you don't have love, you don't have any of them. And they all are tethered to your innate spirit, your true self, who you truly are. Your mind, will, and emotions are tools to help your true self to operate in this world. But the narcissist sacrifices their true self for the false self, which is the mask, the ego, all the time, which is to compensate. And they live in a fear-based, lust, living 3D world where all they care about is getting those needs met, and running around to do it, and to get fuel to power this thing up so they can fit in. So they're always overcompensating by lying and manipulating. And that even gets insatiable to where they can't stop it sometimes. And that's when the demonic energy inside them needs to feed. It's hungry. That's why they start to turn ashen, because at this point they're not getting supply. It's almost like if you leave a narcissist long enough by themselves, that thing may leave them. They may deliver themselves that way. It's almost like that, because that's why they start really wiling out, because they need to feed. And that's the demon. It would probably be the best time to get it extracted as well. Would be the best time for narcissists to ever get healing would be through a complete collapse of their life and lifestyle, and then for them to go get deliverance because that demon probably wants to get, I mean, to some degree, it's not getting a whole lot from them because there's no supply going on there. So it would be easier to get the thing extracted. But anyway, thank you for watching. Give me a like, subscription, thumbs up, love you all. Till next time, peace, we out.